And I spent a little bit of time on the front end, and I was in this village where there was a lot of Buddhists there. And there was a monk, and he said, "Do you want to play checkers?" And I said, "Sure, I'll play checkers." And we're playing checkers, and in the middle of checkers, he looks at me with full presence. It wasn't just a question. It had some energy to it. And he looked at me and he goes, "Are you happy?" My doorway into rites of passage is particularly earth-based. Culturally speaking, it's relevant to our times. And so it's really, for me, like the doorway into a rite of passage is through our connection to the earth or to nature or to wildness. And when I connect to the land, it's like everything is in movement all the time. There's nothing that's still. And when I think of the word passage, it implies movement. And so when I think about a rite of passage, it's a community-held opportunity for an individual to have deliberate movement in their life.
Raw, uncut, and unapologetic. Welcome to Men Talking Mindfulness.
All right, welcome back to the Men Talking Mindfulness show. A couple of months ago, Will and I were going back and forth just talking about rites of passage, and hey, it would be cool to have someone on the show to talk about that. And literally like less than a day or two later, Darren reached out. We're gonna have Darren Silver on the show. He's all about just that thing, rites of passage, spending time in the wilderness and helping people really reconnect with who they are and where they're going. And he's been guiding this kind of work for years, and I'm very excited. We are very excited. Just sit down and hear what he has to share about this very thing, rites of passage. Will, Darren, great to see you guys. Will, I'll turn it over to you for the rest of the intro.
Yeah, hey, good to be back, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. So hey, you want to plug into what Men Talking Mindfulness is doing, just head to mentalkingmindfulness.com. Spartan race coming up October 19th in Dallas. That's only 5 weeks away. So come join us, and maybe that could be a little rite of passage, doing this 21 obstacle course, 5K, 3.1 miles, and having fun and connect with men and other people that are going to be attending as well. All right, so let's just ground ourselves with this one breath. All right, so sit up tall, get that dignified spine on line. All right, let's start with a nice little full exhale out the mouth. Let it go. Easy, 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 empty out. And take one big, giant inhale. Keep going a little more. And let's hold here at the top for 3, 2, 1. Exhale, let it go. Great. Rites of passage. Here we go. And thanks everybody for tuning in. Maybe leave a review on our podcast. Maybe share it with somebody else that's out there. John, let's go.
Let's do it.
Yeah,
Darren, again, thanks for joining us here, man. Happy to have you.
It's great to be here, guys. Yeah, it's good to be with you both.
Yeah, well, let's just jump right into there. And what we talked about it there in the intro, rites of passage. We've heard that. A lot of us have kind of envisioned that they're kind of something that's long past, or something that maybe some ancient tribes or tribes that we're not really a part of, or I don't know, that it's just something of the past or something others do. What do you yourself, what do you mean by the word rite of passage?
Well, my doorway into rites of passage is particularly earth-based. So culturally speaking, it's relevant to our times. And so it's really, for me, like the doorway into a rite of passage is through our connection to the earth or to nature or to wildness. And I'm a word nerd. I love picking things apart a lot.
great. Us too.
And when I connect to the land, it's like everything is in movement all the time. There's nothing that's still. And when I think of the word passage, it implies movement. And so when I think about a rite of passage, it's a community-held opportunity for an individual to have deliberate movement in their life. And so I can break down what that looks like, right?
Yeah, please.
Movement. What a big word, movement. Oh my God,
exactly.
Yeah.
Movement from status, movement from one chapter of life to the next, movement from middle school to high school, from high school to college, I'm a little distracted because all of a sudden this like flock of turkeys just started clucking outside my door. I'm like, what is
Wish
going
I
on
could fucking
outside?
say that. Like, I saw a truck full of dead turkeys drive by going to the grocery store. That's as close as I get in New York. But anyway, sorry, I'm jealous.
I
God,
was like,
sorry,
what is
Darren.
going on outside my door? Um, so
Darren's in Boulder and I'm in Colorado Springs.
Yeah,
Will is in
yeah.
New York City, so completely different experience there for Will.
Yeah, no, for real.
yeah, they're making a racket out there. Or from like, a lot of people will show up. I primarily work with adults, but they're feeling the tug of movement in their life. They're ready to step out of a career. They're ready to step into a marriage. The list goes on and on. And so it's like, it's a community held opportunity where one is given the right to say, yes, make that move in your life, make that movement. And the way that I'm going to do it, or I'm going to facilitate it, is let's get in contact with the earth, which is always in movement, and allow that to assist us in our internal movement. To me, that's like the nuts and bolts a way that I can talk about it. Historically, that is still there. It was about movement, but there was a lot more cultural um, attributes that went along with a rites of passage. Um, yeah, and these days we are kind of bereft of rites of passage that carry gravity, that carry like some real consequence and weight, and also put us in a much greater story than ourselves.
Yeah, elaborate on that. What do you mean, like a greater story than ourselves?
Yeah, I mean, there's an author out there, Francis Weller. I believe he wrote a book called The Wild Edge of Sorrow. He's a psychotherapist, and somewhere in that book, he says something like, it may not be verbatim, like rites of passage of old never had to do with the individual. It never had to do with the self. And that's the challenge that we have these days, is what is the relationship between me and my own growth and that which I'm invited to participate in, which is life, or my culture, or providership. And, in times of old, it didn't have to do with as much about the self as much as what we were being invited to participate in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Like
and
we're become like part of a greater whole, like you're talking about here, or like
exactly.
we're actually said move, right? So we're kind of, is it that we're like moving into a different part of our lives through society kind of thing?
Yeah. Um, I mean, I'm kind of diving into the deep end real quick.
Yeah,
Okay.
if there's something that we need to
W-
kind of like pull out and like pull some strings on a little bit, then go right ahead. If we
Well,
can go deep, then it's
Well, like, uh,
unless John, you're feeling
s-
something.
yeah, I mean, just so my background, Darren, I don't know what you know about me, but I'm a retired Navy SEAL. And when I was going through training, there was this one guy of Native American descent. And a lot of the stuff we do is swimming. So we see one another with our shirts off all the time. And he had these two huge scars on his chest, like right up on his upper pectorals. And we were like, what the hell is that, man? He's like, oh, this comes from my rite of passage. And we're like, what is that? And he had like, you probably know better than what I about this rite of passage, but basically he had like some type of chain link or something put through his chest and then connected to a tree, and he hung off this thing until maybe he was just full of crap. But I remember him saying that this rite of passage took him from being a boy to being a man, but it also, like you said, it wasn't just about him. It was about what he was becoming a part of, and that part of that was the brotherhood or the group of men that he was becoming a part of. And that's what I kind of got from what you were just saying. It's not just about him, but it's basically about him becoming something, a part of something way bigger than himself.
exactly, exactly. And the same mechanics are I would imagine, and a little bit of assumption there, in becoming a Navy SEAL. Um,
Oh, for
Yeah.
sure. Oh,
yeah,
100%. Yeah. I mean,
totally there.
that's less about us as individuals and more of us
Right.
like
Mm.
connecting in
Yeah.
commiserating, like, hey, we're going through some hard things together, bonds us together. But then
Yeah.
when we get to the teams, the guys see us and they know that we've all gone through hell to get there. So there's
Mm.
at least some level of respect. Yeah, there's still a bunch of hazing and saying, hey, bunch of new guys, but there's also a level of respect. Okay, yeah, these guys made it through the training that they did to get here. So yeah, great point.
Yeah,
Mm.
and probably trustworthiness. Like
Oh,
I can
sure.
Yeah.
rely on the
Very
person
true.
next to me. And
Yeah.
Mm.
that's part of, particularly for men, part of initiation of old. Okay, speaking of, intact earth-based cultures, initiation for men was deeply being initiated into the cultural realm. Or I would say into the realm of like the beholders are the fathers and men. Initiation for women is a little bit different. It's driven actually more biologically than it is cultural. Yeah. And so, in other words, like men need a cultural substrate that's bigger than them to reside in. Um, Men, in my experience, I'm not speaking as this is fact, are more externally informed. They need that kind of cultural holding to find direction to some degree. It's a little bit different um, for women, in my experience, in my observation. So that ceremony that native man was talking about was likely the Sundance ritual.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. Tell me what that, like,
Yeah,
I mean,
please.
this
I'm
is
so
30,
curious.
20 something years ago.
yeah,
So yeah, I'm sure I'm messing up the story, but yeah, tell me what
no,
that is.
no, that feels accurate to me. Except that it's the way that I've read and observed about it is it's typically wood or bone
Okay. Yeah.
that
I
is
was off on the
sliced through their
chain.
skin, and then it's a rope.
Yeah.
I mean, I've
Okay.
heard people talk about it like chains and hooks, and it's like, ah, it's a piece of wood, and it's brought to it's tied to the top of a tree.
Yeah. Okay.
And yeah, I mean, there's so many mystery teachings in there, like that I've read about of like what was that about? And like who knows? I mean, it definitely involves a blood rite,
Hmm.
Yeah.
um, which are particularly important for men.
Right. So, I mean, that's what we just described is clearly anecdotal. That's one particular rite of passage. But have you seen any kind of across the different rites of passage that you know of, or that you've participated in, or that you've helped to run? Are there any certain rituals or symbols or, I don't know, cultural things that overlap across them, or not?
Um, yeah, particularly for men, there often is a sacred wounding, some
Mm,
type of
okay.
sacred wound, whether in this case
Mm.
is the Sundance. I guided like a gap year program. Gosh, this is probably 12, 13 years ago. So 18, 19-year-olds between high school and college, not quite sure what to do. And so they do a gap year and learn more about themselves. And we were in East Africa. Um, and I got to spend a little bit of time with the Maasai people. And it was a very casual conversation, but I was like, "Can you tell me about your rites of passage?" And all of them like opened up their cheek and were like, got this tooth knocked out during my rites of passage. Some of them showed burned marks on their cheeks. And I remember just going, wow, there's some type of sacred wounding that happens. Um, what's that about? I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly.
I could
Mhm.
go in so many different directions about, what the drawing of blood for men is.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a great question. Go right there. Like what I mean, like I feel like a lot of this, whether it's the seals, whether it's the sun ritual practice or something like that, like you mentioned, is like almost and bringing people into society, bringing as like almost boy into manhood with other men. It's almost like there's also like a trauma bonding that goes on
Mm,
because you have
hmm.
to really go through something very deep, that
yeah.
you're gonna lose a tooth, you can get a scar in your chest, you're gonna get whatever, burn on your face, just to, become, a different person if that's really what we're trying
Sure.
to become here. But yeah, why does blood,
The wounding.
or the wounding, if you will, whether it's blood, whether it's burn, whether it's like whatever, like lost tooth or something like that. I mean, are they essential? Or are these just ancient rituals that are just like, they're fucking crazy people. We need to like, and I'm not knocking anybody. I'm just trying
No,
to
I'm just
steel man here a
laughing.
little bit.
I'm just laughing because, and before you get into answering that, Darren, two things. One, I don't know if you've ever watched Yellowstone, the TV show. Basically,
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, they all work on this ranch called the Yellowstone, and they have this brand that is a Y.
Oh,
and
that's right.
They
There you
brand
go.
they brand all the the cows, the cattle, but then if you become a ranch hand, you kind of commit to being part of the brotherhood there at the Yellowstone, and you get the big gigantic Y branded on your chest, and so that's another anecdote. But coming back to the SEALs, you go through the initial training, and then you go through what's called SEAL qualification training, and after that you get your trident, which is a big gold emblem that you wear on your chest. And I'm pretty sure they're not allowed to do this anymore. But this is back in 2002. Once we got our trident, we all went to a big party afterwards, and some of the SEAL instructors were there, and they would take us back in a room, and all the instructors would line up, and they would just run at us full speed, no shirt on. We've got the trident there, and they pin it onto us, like punch us in the chest, and it sticks there. And now, the little prongs in the back are pinned into your chest. And then the next instructor comes up, runs across the room, punches it in the chest. And we were so excited to have that happening, which is so weird to think of. But now that you just said that wounding, that was the wounding that tied us all together. Yes, we had the training, but then we had the literal pinning of the trident into our chest, blood running down our chest. I mean, it was
Fucking
very
painful.
Very painful. Looking back on it, it was kind of ridiculous. But at the same time, I walked out. I have this picture. I've got to find it somewhere. Will, I'll send it to you one day.
Yeah, please.
But I have this picture. I walked out of that room. I've got my trident pinned on my chest, and there's just blood running down. I'm like, yeah, I'm a man now. I don't know, like 24, 25 years old, and now I'm a man because I got this thing punched in my chest. So anyway, sorry, I digress. But the whole point there is whether it's Yellowstone, whether it's Navy SEAL pinning, whether it's this sun practice. Forgive me, I forgot the name of it there. But yeah, it does seem that there's some type of wounding across all of them.
I'm thinking about something now. Like, I don't know if I've ever said it like this before, but a trauma is a wound without meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. Well, that's really wow. Okay.
Like, let's say we were, the three of us were walking down the street, or I was walking with one of you, and we were shooting the shit, and out of nowhere, you turned around and clocked me in the face. It would probably be a little traumatic. I'd probably be like, whoa, can I trust this guy? Can I walk down the street? Is someone just going to jump out, clock me in the face? But if we were like in a heated argument and we got in a fight, it probably wouldn't register the same. And so, like going through life, we get, wounds happen, breakups happen, relationships end, people pass away, whatever. Like we're riddled with wounds. But in a ritual context or in a rite of passage context, it's given this weight of meaning that I think has a little bit of a different effect than a trauma. It is kind of a physical trauma, getting the badge punched into your chest, but it also had a different meaning. It had a different effect. And I think there's something in the mechanics behind rites of passage that involve those deep physical woundings that were a little bit different consequence of binding and bonding that brought the people together. That it is like, yeah, it's a physical trauma, but not an emotional in the same way. That's just kind of what I'm thinking about that. Yeah. And Will, you asked a question I can't remember anymore because I went down that rabbit hole in my head.
I can't remember. Well, yeah. Why blood? Like, what is it about? I mean, is it, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, what is it about drawing blood?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Well,
part of a lot of these.
sure. I mean, blood is a mysterious life force that flows through us. And what happens when that is revealed? What mystery is brought forth? And again, I've never thought of it quite like this before. But there is a mystery that contains life force in it that is hidden and then revealed. There's something to that of drawing forth, and I particularly like. I don't know. Maybe I'm just speaking about myself, but I think there's something like built in men that. So a lot of my lineage comes from the tracker school, Tom Brown Jr. You guys
Oh
ever?
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of SEALs go through that.
Oh,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep.
He
there
had
you
a
go.
huge influence on the
Yeah,
SEALs.
sure did.
And he passed away a year ago, a year and 2 weeks ago. But I studied with him for 20, 21 years. Um, and a lot of it has to do with tracking, which is following mystery track by track. And of course, women are drawn to tracking as well. It's not what I'm saying, but I do think that there's something in men that are drawn to follow mystery, to be informed by mystery, to wake up as, the eyelid of the world is opening at dawn and go out with our spear right into fucking mystery.
Yeah, curiosity. Like,
And what adventure? Like we had John Eldridge on, about Wild at Heart, right? Yeah, and he's like, that's one of the three pillars is adventure, right? You're drawn forward, you're going on the adventure, and we don't know what's going to happen on adventure, but you're still drawn forward with that. So that makes a lot of sense. And what about like a part of uh, well, I have like one question is like, and then I have like a separate question. It's like, I mean, so many questions about this, obviously. Uh, um, so what are like what are the transformative effects of something like this? Like you said, you're working with a group of 18, 19-year-olds in that gap year where they're trying to figure themselves out and obviously give themselves and you providing some direction in their lives. When someone goes through a rite of passage, it really takes on the practices, like really dives in to the practice. Like what are some of the effects you see from that human being, from that man, if you will, or woman. I don't know how many women you work with that go as they move through and then get on the other side of this rite of passage.
Yeah, I can tell a story that's like super fresh, a couple days old. Yeah, I was just out in the Northeast Kingdom of Vermont guiding a modern day vision quest, modern day rites of passage. And there's 3 days of preparation on the front end where we're all at a base camp camping. And then the heart of it is for 4 days and 4 nights. The individuals go out and they're fasting. All they have is 4 gallons of water, basic shelter, tarp, sleeping bag. And then there's 2 days of integration on the back end. So there was a young man that went out and, um, just has like all of the capacity to live into. Strong man, upright man, clear, compassionate, but really stuck at a point of transition. Really stuck, kind of collapsed, I would say. And sent him out, 4 gallons of water and a tarp and a sleeping bag. And um, the first day, a bear came to him, a black bear. Um, and like, I don't know, the way that he told the story 30 feet away, and he was riveted. And that was enough energy to like pull him out of his melancholy, his collapsedness, you know? And he watched the bear for a while. He was energized, but wasn't like in terror. He didn't try to yell and scare it off. He just watched it. And I told him, I said, look, if an animal shows up like a bear or whatever it is, like it knows what you're up to. Like ask it what it's there to teach.
mm,
Oh
And
wow.
it really hit him like, holy shit, like I got to um protect my edges so I can stand up for who I am. In other words, I need to be me enough that people can't just influence me left and right. And I swear this is what happened. He looked to the right and he saw a dead standing tree, but it wasn't, it was probably 10 feet high. And he said he turned into a fucking bear and tore that thing to bits, like tore it to bits. And he was in it. He wasn't
Wow.
acting or pretending or making theatrics. Like, he was yelling. And part of that anger was in contact, in connection with himself in some way. Like this old god that I like to call goes by the name of wait a fucking minute, that we all need to call on from some time, like,
Yeah.
hey, I need to stand up for myself. And he tore it to bits. I mean, drooling, snotting, yelling, growling. And there was it was a soft, dead standing tree,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it was just shrapnel everywhere of wood.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
he sat there and then he wept and he
Oh, wow.
wept and he wept. And he wept till he didn't have any tears left in him. And he crossed that river of grief into courage, into love, into piecing himself back together. And he looked at all of this, torn apart tree. And he said, I'm going to make a shrine out of this. And he made, how I saw it was more of like a circular shrine mandala that he can stand in, that honored what that bear had inspired in him to honor his own boundaries and edge, the ground that he stood on. That 3-4 hours of that whole process, like, I am not exaggerating, that man came in different. He walked in different. Like, no more where people cross my boundaries. That bear came in and it was enough 300 pounds of wildness that brought him where he needed to be. Yeah.
Wow. And then going at that tree, it's like, him almost like, tearing down or deconstructing the old, right? And then building it into something new. You know what I mean? It's just like, and I could see it's almost like, if he's tearing down that tree, like it's, and like almost seeing himself in that tree or the old self and just deconstructing and then weeping because like, it's almost like a death. I mean, it's almost like you're dying of an old self and then bringing yourself into the new self. It's like, and now I'm kind of getting on the path here of why rites of passage are important, right? It's like there's a certain transformation that begins to occur and a shift that occurs in somebody's life, psychologically, physically, emotionally. And what you mentioned here about boundaries is so important. Instead of being manipulated by society so easily, whether it's whatever schools, coaches, social media, you can really be strong, like a bear in this case, and just really just hold space, without even saying a word. That's really powerful.
So powerful. It was so powerful. And the cool thing is, on a tangent,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
I would assume it was the same bear. I had 10 people out, men and women, because it all happened
Did you
on the
hire the
first.
bear, Darren? Did you
I
hire the
did.
fucking bear?
I did.
to
I was
show-
in
just kidding.
costume, actually, man.
I was just kidding. I'm sorry.
It was all that afternoon that encountered 3 people, including that young man. And it had a different message for everybody that was just as potent. It was so cool. I was like, wow, that bear just like wove through this mountainside and greeted everybody in some way. It was cool, man. It was really cool. Yeah.
Couple things here. So, I mean, that sounds incredible, and I'm sure it's really powerful, like you just mentioned. Today, these rites of passage, some of them are probably looked at as archaic, something that's no longer needed. What's your thoughts on that? And then the backside follow-on question to that is, for those who do not get some type of rite of passage, what are they missing out on?
Well, if I'm offering a program to like 13-year-old boys on a rite of passage, I can't go cutting, putting sticks in their chest.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. You think?
can't do
Yeah. You're
that.
probably going to get reported to the
Not in this
authorities.
country.
So it's tricky these days, honestly, to give something that like really carries some potency, that like really has some gravity to it. And we're never going to go back to times of old, and I have no attempt to like try to recreate some intact cultural thing from anthropology books. And yet, where I've gone with it is like what we all have in common is that we all lived somewhere. We all grew up somewhere. We all stand on the ground. And that it's kind of crazy these days because there's like questions of moving to another planet. There's people in positions of power that are like, get me out of here. But that to me is what we all have in common. And so that's kind of the ground of a rite of passage for me is like, let us once again just like learn the ground that we stand on. Let's establish the ground that we stand on. Let us find mystery and awe and connection with where we are, whether in a city or not. There is. It's like the earth informs all of our movements. It's just so ever present that we forget it exists, like gravity. The sunrise, sunset, it informs everything. The seasons inform everything. So let us tap back into those ancient movements that inform us. So that's kind of my approach these days. And then, and yet we can still provide containers or contexts or experiences that give people a doorway into themselves and into mystery and into healing and into growth. And I feel like when we don't offer that, we're stifled, particularly as men, in adolescence.
Wow. Well, what is it about that
No matter our
adolescence? Like,
age, we're still
yeah,
there.
yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, and like as I was researching for the show, and we talk about all different types of things on the show about men and masculinity, and one thing that came up for me are just like, well, I mean, is this a way, rites of passage to kind of keep our ego in check, right? Which can be, inflated by, especially at a younger age, like 13, 14, 15, is like this testosterone now that we have in our body, right? Which really can make us like, we really show up differently in the world. And is this a way that just kind of, lets us know, like you mentioned, like that we're part of something bigger than ourselves. We're part of an earth. We're part of this amazing earth that it just creates so much humility because it could just, in a second, our life can change because of how incredibly powerful the planet is. But also, like in society, it's just like we are now have another level of responsibility in society because of how we've changed as human beings, right? So that we need to be seen, right, as this new human being, but also uh be on the lookout of like, hey, like it's not all about me. It's not all about like my desires. It's not all about going about life in just a me way. Like what about the we way, if you will? Is that kind of tied into this, or that's kind of the way that I've been processing and synthesizing this as I studied, to get ready for this interview?
Yeah, I would say absolutely. It is about maturing. It is about stepping into responsibility. It is keeping self-centeredness at bay. And that's another element of rites of passage of old is like it was and still is um like a cultural insurance policy that we as a people will continue the way that we live. There are young men that know how to hunt and can return with something. Like we as a people will survive because they know. And it is in our culture. It's education system. It's, all the pieces. What's missing is it doesn't carry that mythic context. It doesn't carry that explicit, this is for you to learn how to be a river for your people. But it is preparation to perpetuate. It's preparation to perpetuate the society that we have. Yeah. It also, to some degree, in my opinion, is missing some core ingredients about that it's not just about humans. It's like our actions also influence the planet that we live on. So we have to become connected enough that our actions are perpetuating everything, right? It's not just us perpetuating as humans. And that's like an ingredient that's missing now in those rites of passage of getting a driver's license or going to education or a training for work. And yet it's all still there. The sense of responsibility, the sense of growing up. It just, in my opinion, is missing that sense of like, you're not as important as what you're being invited to participate in, which is life on a much grander scale.
So you talked about like if without going through a rite of passage, we're kind of trapped in this adolescence. Maybe that was the wrong word, but for critics of rites of passage, maybe there's someone who has a son, maybe the parent didn't go through a rite of passage, and they think that their son going through any type of rite of passage is a bunch of bullshit. What do you say to that?
How long do you want to be a parent to a 13-year-old?
Yeah. Great point.
Great point.
That's a little bit of a smart ass answer. Sorry,
No,
listeners.
but at the same time,
I'm fucking with you, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what I would say is find the place where it doesn't have to be land-based. It doesn't have to be a wilderness quest. It doesn't have to be any of that. It's like, then create the container where their son can be given the opportunity to step into something different about themselves and their identity. A big part of adolescence is it's wrought with contradiction and adventure and finding the edge. There's an elder that I came into contact. He never like really became my elder, but he said that it's stuck with me. He said, "Darren, if you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much fucking room."
I love that.
Wow.
Is so good.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
of adolescence of like, where is my edge?
Yeah.
Where
Right.
is it? And I don't know about you guys, but when I was 13, 16, 17, I found that edge in ways that were like, definitely didn't bring me into like a sense of health.
Yeah.
No. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
I was a bit of a destructive teen. You know what I mean? Pushing edges. I literally like fucking like, walking the edge of like the law. I was just doing dumb shit like deliberately or not even consciously. Just like, this is what I do because I was alive. I was like, this is adventure, man. You know what I mean? This is like, soap and car, like, what do they call it? What's the night before Halloween, John? That they call it
Hallows Eve?
Yeah, Hallows Eve, but it was like this certain mischief night. And we used to go out and scope cars and shit, and like, we throwing eggs and doing all this mischievous stuff, a mischief night. And it was like we looked forward to that more than Halloween, especially when we got, into that adolescence. But
Totally.
yeah, keep going. Like, because
so
I felt that I needed that. Yeah, I needed to know where the edge was so I could be pulled back. And it was like, luckily I didn't get into too much trouble, but I definitely I walked that edge, and it was fun and exciting, but it was scary when you're, when someone's chasing you down the street, for a line that you crossed. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, adolescence is wrought with that kind of paradox and contradiction. It's like we're trying to find our edge because we want to discover who we are, what our limits, what our capacity is. And at the same time, on the other side of the coin, we're asking like, where do I belong? Who are my friends? Who are my people? Who shares the same values that I'm discovering about myself? Who likes to climb rocks? Who likes to skateboard? Who likes to fish? Who likes to this type of music? And so there's this like real tension kind of dance of like, who am I? And then where do I belong? And that's all like kind of adolescent figuring out. That hopefully in adulthood, it's like, hey, I know who I am and I know who my people are and I know what I have to give. I know this is what I love and I'm going to do it. And there's so many men that show up to my programs that are like, man, I've spent the last 25 years doing a job that was never me. that I do not like, and I am burnt out, and I lost my marriage and I lost my kids because of it. I'm never doing that again. I'm going to do what I love. And that's adolescent stuff, you know? That's how can I find what I love so that when I'm an adult, I can be generative to me and those people around me doing what I love. It's not easy these days. Of course it's not. But can we find the balance in there? Can we find the balance? And so that's a little bit of like adolescent high drama kind of figuring out that can take place. Like in the story I told, that all played out in a moment with a bear. It all played out. Edge, terror. Am I going to die? Am I going to live? Who am I? Where do I stand? You know, how can I turn this into something that's life-giving? Wait a second. All of this woundedness, I can actually make into something beautiful here. You know? And so anyways, to go back to the question, it's like, it doesn't have to be that for parents. It could be like, how can you create the context where they can step into that sense of responsibility that carries enough gravity and edge to it that we discover who we are.
Yeah. What about the flip side of that same coin? So you've got different organizations saying that they have to administer a rite of passage to be a part of that organization, maybe like a secret society, or maybe not even as complex as a secret, like fraternities.
Think about
right?
Exactly, fraternities.
Yeah, like,
my God, yeah.
They call what they're doing a rite of passage, but sometimes it's, putting a bong in somebody's mouth and having them down 6 beers in 2 minutes, and that's a rite of passage. But at what point does the rite of passage truly become bullshit? Like, no, that's not a rite of passage. That's a risk to that person's life.
It's just stupidity.
When does the quote unquote rite of passage become, like Will said, stupidity?
Yeah, or hurtful or something, right?
Yeah, dangerous.
Yeah.
I think it comes down to what you said before, and maybe I'm answering my own question here. What did you say? Trauma is a wound without purpose. Maybe that's okay. When does the rite of passage become completely purposeless? Maybe
and macho in some ways, you know what I mean? Like you think about the beer and the bongs and that kind of stuff, and like doing, it's just almost like, hey, look how tough I am. Keg stands, and it's like, again, I think it's like literally, it's all like a massive abuse of your testosterone. I feel, because I might remember those days. I know I keep coming back to that. I don't know, but it's like I think as men we need some sort of regulator, and like society can be that regulator as we move through a rite of passage. I mean, I'm just spewing here, but I pontificate. I hope I'm making sense. Okay, I feel like I am.
Absolutely. I mean, there's times I think about my high school years or adolescence years, and I'm like, oh my God, was I a moron?
Oh yeah.
How am I still alive? Like,
no shit.
How did I slip out of that pickle and not get totally busted and in jail and have a totally different life,
Yeah, thank God iPhones didn't exist when I was in high school, man. iPhones and YouTube and everything else, I never would have made it out alive.
Yeah, we wouldn't have this show. We'd just be shamed out of having the show,
That's right.
Anyway, I think we're highlighting it all here. It's like, when is it actually not life-giving and destructive to a point, that the purpose, it doesn't bring us into a context that overall is life-giving,
Right, and it's something useful,
Yeah, that it's our own degradation that makes us belong instead of our own, like, courage, a true courage, and our own strength in a way that actually brings us into a sense of belonging.
Yeah. There's no growth there, right? They're like doing the keg stands and the bongs and like all that other, like, I've done both of those, and I never came out of them saying, I am stronger now. I came out thinking, oh man, that was stupid.
Yeah, with a hangover the next day.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So, okay, I think that could probably be the line is when it becomes self-destructive or destructive, and there's no growth. So.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, what about like for dads? So I've got a young 6-year-old little boy. I've got three kids, but my son, if I wanted to, you know, get him through a rite of passage, how would I, as the father, go about doing that? What does that look like? You know, if I don't want to send him to Darren Silver to do it, I want to help to bring my son into manhood myself. What would you recommend for the fathers who are listening?
Well, um, it's you got something, Will?
No, I was thinking, can it be done by the father?
Yeah, I was just thinking that
Because of how deep that relationship is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, or does it have to be there's a guide like yourself or, a coach or, whatever, a program or something like that? I'm just yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It is it's a little bit trickier for fathers to do it for their sons. And that's like it and yet it's like it's necessary for the father to be present and meet their children or their son like with the changes that are happening. And so, I mean, the short answer is, and I say this generally as uncles, but like other men that they're surrounded with that are your friends or our friends, like that there's a team of uncles that are keeping this young lad in check, in some way, and deliberately holding them through this transition. Um, and if there is an intact family, it doesn't have to be intact, but let's say mom is in the picture in some capacity, that is actually spoken of and ritualized. And it can be the simplest of ways where there is a conversation between mom and son of like, um, I'm going to step back a little bit and so that you can step into the responsibilities of your dad's world. And then there's a 2-hour dinner with father and son after mom has that. Like, hey, I'm going to step back a little bit and I'm not going to nourish you as much because the nourishment's going to come from your father a little bit more now. Um, I mean, there's so many things that can happen. Bringing one into a sense of belonging if it doesn't already exist, but in a deeper way with a sense of family lineage, a story of your dad. That can look at a lot of ways or go way far back to um, this was our family's emblem 300 years ago. And let's explore this together. And hey, let's create a wooden box that holds all things that are important to our family here. Or, like there's so many creative ways that can be very simple that give that boy a sense of there is an open road. There's somewhere to go. Because I think a lot of teens these days, and it's not just like I came from those two people, I'm nothing like them, but there's something deeper that's happening. That's like what is happening in the world, and I'm not following them. And all these like weird spin-offs are happening these days, just to completely reject all this stuff. And so giving them some like there is an open road, there is something true and beautiful about this way. Sorry if that was long-winded. That makes sense?
No, not at all, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
No,
cool.
I'm with you. I'm with you. What is it about like one thing that about rites of passage is like being seen afterwards or being like seen differently. I've also heard stories of certain rites of passage like, when the son comes back to the family, the mother needs to be like reintroduced to her son because it's no longer the same, young man, and now it's like somebody different. Like, so like, could you take us through the importance of the society, like really seeing, accepting, and almost congratulating, this, a person that's gone through rite of passage, that kind of adds to like, all right, I'm fucking different now or something,
Yeah, it's essential. Like, it's absolutely essential to have some type of honoring of returning back from these big experiences. Um, and, in all of my master's degree and, initiation, mythology of initiation and the dirt time of doing this stuff, it's like, what are we being initiated into? Like what is there to return to? It's not like the Messiah where I went through my initiation and now I can get married. It's clear prior to that. And if I didn't make it, no wife for me, you know? Um, it's not that clear for us. And so it's really tricky times of like, what are we returning to? And that's why having those small communities of families, of uncles, of aunties, of, to kind of welcome that back. It's so essential, and honor the responsibilities that come with it. And when I worked, 10, 15 years ago for rites of passage organizations, there would be like a sit down with the family and we would prepare the kids. Like, what do you think you can do now that that you weren't able to do before? And what responsibility are you taking on to have this quote unquote privilege? Well, I want to be able to stay out till 10 o'clock if he's a 12-year-old boy. Okay. Well, what's the responsibility that you have to yourself to show that and build trust with your parents? So that's part of what that looked like. There is, I have like a couple stories going on in my head. There's a mythic story that I sometimes tell, and I told it at a gathering like a year or two ago. And it's actually a Blackfoot story where this young man is sent out into the other world, you could say, into a land nobody had ever been to before, and to come back with something. And they had sent so many boys to go out there and come back, and none had returned. Well, he returned and he looked so different that nobody recognized him. And literally the tribe is throwing rocks at him and shooting their arrows. Get out of here. And it's like this massive heartbreak for this young man. Like, oh my God, I'm not welcome back with to my people when I brought back the gift they sent me out to go get. I told this story. It was a men's gathering. There was probably 35 men, 40 men. And the elder man is just weeping while I'm telling this story. And I finished and said, "What's up?" He goes, "That was me returning from Vietnam."
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
I see that.
Wow.
That was me returning from Vietnam, you know? And so this coming back is like, we don't do it well. It doesn't matter what the context is. We don't do it well. And I can think of like 100 examples. Wedding ceremonies. They're beautiful, they're fun. And I would say, the divorce rate is what, like 60% these days? It's like we have this grand celebration. Do we actually hold the people after? We're holding you as a couple. We're here for you.
Yeah, we're
You
seeing
know,
you. Yeah, witnessing this
we
event.
we got you for the long haul and the long dance. It's like
Mm.
we don't do that part well, and so it's hard. It's like I have more questions than I have answers about that.
Yeah.
And on it
Well, what would be your
carries.
recipe for doing it well? What would be your recipe for doing it well? Coming back,
Yeah.
the reintegration. What would be your recipe? Like having gone through so many of these things.
Well, what I told these people that just went out with me, I said, insights, transformations, quote unquote, visions that occurred for you out in the wilderness will stay alive if you maintain your connection to the wilderness or to nature. So you find a place where you can go to once a week and make contact with the earth to keep that alive. And so it's like, does one create the context where we can keep whatever we touched alive, whatever that may be? Another one is to embrace consequence.
What do you
Like,
mean by
okay,
that?
Yeah,
you
elaborate.
I mean,
wanted your
I know what
life
embrace consequence means, but like in this context.
in this
Yeah.
context. It's like you wanted this change, and now you're going to go out there and the change happened. Are you willing to embrace the consequence of the change that happened for yourself? Because it will be tested. Because I can promise you that 99% of the population didn't do what you just did. They'll think you're half nuts for fasting in the woods, Or the CEO I take out and he goes, and I'm not kidding, I mean straight and narrow and cubic like as you can get, and going, "A fucking birch tree, talk to me." He didn't hear it, but it
Yeah.
came. He goes,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I
You sensed
wept
it.
and wept. It made contact with something. It's like, yeah, dude, do not say that in the office place.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I know
Probably
what you
won't go
mean.
over well.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Don't say that. But hold that close and don't forget it. It was real what happened, You experience forgiveness in a way you never have, that you've gone to therapy for 25 years trying to get at, and it's get completed. It's done. But can you embrace that? Can you embrace, like, most people don't want to change. They think about it, and then the change happens, and they're like, what the hell? Everything that I made sense of before no longer made sense because I'm no longer experiencing it through that trauma.
Right, right. And seeing things through that lens, like wow, you had a completely different experience, and therefore you have a different worldview. I guess that's a big part of this too. It's like your worldview really begins to shift in a major way. So what you used to process, prior to the experience, now how you process, it has fundamentally changed. Like the CEO that you're talking about, and it's like, I like that you mentioned staying in contact with that, like getting back to nature or getting back to that totem or whatever that is and make contact. Right. Yeah. That's got to be like, it's like a practice. Like, I meditate every day. It's not like that's my rite of passage, but it's a reminder. It creates that reference point. It lets me know that I have peace within and I can act through a place of peace. Right. And all the different things that, accessing my peaceful nature really begins to bring forth. I'm more kind and more patient, more agreeable. Like I listen more than I speak sometimes, that kind of thing is what peace is. And I'm able to find more happiness and be more content and let things kind of flow as they are, instead of always, with my selfish ego, trying to control the rest of the world in some ways, or demand that the world like meets my needs, which is absolute total bullshit.
I'll just say one thing real quick on this last
Yeah.
quest. There was a
Yeah.
rabbi on the quest.
Okay. Yeah.
I've never had that experience before.
Mm.
And I was intimidated. I was like, I don't know anything about Judaism. Like I hope I'm able to support this guy. And he
Yeah.
came out, and I kid you not, he was a little pissed at me that change happened.
Uh-oh.
Really?
N
Why?
not pissed at me, like, in a personal way, but he had an edge, like, "It fucking happened. You're telling me this is gonna last?"
Interesting.
Like, that's our relationship with actually when change happens. It's tricky,
Mm. Yeah.
especially in a society at large that values certainty so much.
Mm.
Mhm.
It's like, "Wait a second, change happened, now
Mm.
what?" He wasn't genuinely angry at me, but he was like, "It happened." He had this edge of like, "You're telling me this, like, that it happened? Hear what you're saying, man. You're saying it, not me."
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
it's yeah.
it's kinda like I guess the closest thing that I can think of, is when we all lose our innocence, quote, unquote, right? We look forward to that until we do, and then, yeah, there's a little part of us that celebrates, "Oh, yeah, I lost my virginity," or whatever, and then at the same time, you're like, "I can never go back. I'm changed. I can never go
Exactly.
back. I'm not better or worse. I'm just
Mm.
changed." And I can never go
Mm.
back to that. It makes me think of that song "Return to the Innocence," but anyway, that's another another squirrel hole I'm going down. But, the last question I have, Darren, is Will and I met in Costa Rica. We worked together for years, but before we actually met in person, we met in Costa Rica. We were down there for a psilocybin, retreat. Um, what would you say, and I don't know what your experience with any type of plant medicine or psychedelics is, but what would you say psychedelics, what role can they play in a rite of passage,
Mm.
Yeah. Mm.
if any?
Yeah.
Absolutely. They absolutely are initiatory in the context of a rite of passage. I mean, of course, speaking about adolescence, I ate plenty of mushrooms when I was a teenager.
Walking that edge.
I walked it, man. I went to you know, I wanted to find mystery,
Yeah, yeah,
um,
you fucking found it.
and I can understand as an adult in a ritualized way, it's very different than that. So I'm familiar with it. It's not as much been my path as an adult, but I'm certainly familiar with it in a ritual context as an adult. Um, so I wanna I'm gonna broaden it out and then narrow it down real quick. So, and I'll try to speak with brevity. So in the natural world, there's a teaching comes from Tom Brown, the Tracker School, of called baseline. And so baseline is often defined as sound and motion in the natural world. So at sunrise, there's this think about springtime. There's this massive increase in sound and motion with songbirds and movement of animals. And then it kind of, as the day warms up, it goes down. In the middle of the day, a little bit of feeding, and again at sunset. Baseline is sound and motion in the natural world. And there's not only that, there's frogs at night, and there's raccoons, and there's when the deer move to feed, and where they bed, and where they seek protection. There's all these different baselines. We too, as individuals, have a baseline. You know, in a city, there's a baseline. There is an increase of sound and motion that I said in the beginning is informed by the natural baseline of the earth. But on our inside, we have our own baseline. We have a particular way that we generally feel. There are ways that we navigate the world, the lenses that we see through. And an initiatory experience is when there is an interruption in that baseline. We get a glimpse into a different way to perceive and a different place to move from within ourselves. I'm no longer moving from shame or fear. It got interrupted, and now I have a choice. Just like that man with the bear, I got a choice now. I can move from a couple different places. And I would call that an interruption in the baseline. So when it comes to plant medicines, it is a dramatic interruption in our baseline. Super dramatic. It's 5 hours or 10 hours of like, I'm experiencing myself in the world in a very different way. Even like, to some degree of like, I don't even have a self that I'm experiencing this through, you know? And so again, the tricky part is how do I bring this back and integrate it? How do I maintain that interruption where I have choice now of how I want to perceive or be in a relationship with myself? So it can be incredibly powerful. It is an interruption. A vision quest is an interruption as well, but it's not as like what I say is people come back and they don't know how sensitive they've become because the duration is so gradual. Like people don't realize until they get in their car and they're driving, they're like, I want to go 5 miles an hour down the highway. Like,
Yeah.
wow,
Yeah.
I
So
actually
true.
did change, I'm in a different baseline now.
Yeah.
With
Mm.
plant medicine, it's like, wow, I definitely got blasted out. And so it
Mm.
absolutely is an interruption in that. And again, it's the return. How do I bring this home? How do I maintain that sense of choice that I see?
Makes sense. Right on.
Yeah. Last thing I'll say or ask is like, do you recommend kind of that disruption of baseline on a regular basis? Like, you know what I mean? Like, whether it's, I just was in Peru for 16 days and I did this very challenging hike, like at altitudes, almost 17,000 feet, sleeping at 17,000 feet. And it was fucking hard.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely disrupted my baseline, everything, like all my biological functions. Like, it was very humbling to my ego because I'm pretty, can do like a lot of stuff with my body. And I was like, oh my God, like I'm literally walking up this hill as like a slow grandma, 1 foot in front of me, like so slow, but that's what it was required. And no knock on any grandmas, yeah, is there like should we always kind of dial into that part of the self where we really begin to, fuck with that baseline? Is
Yeah.
that
Your
healthy?
guys' questions are awesome. Thank you for these questions, but both of you.
You're welcome. Thanks for
Yeah.
listening.
I talked
That's
about
right now. Yeah.
passage, equating passage and rites of passage to movement. In some way, the dance partner to movement is stability. And so it's like, do I have enough stability that I can create movement? And does my movement bring me back to stability? So it's like, how much to do? It's like, wow, I created a lot of movement. Well, it's dance partner stability. Can I bring all that movement into stability? In my life, to disciplines, to practices that it actually influences me in the way that I live in the day to day. And then I want to create more movement. But there has to be the stabilizing of those experiences for me. That's how I guide people. It's like And some of it takes years. I would guide people for years, guide my prayers like, wow, can we live? Can I live? Can we live closer to nature? And then it's like, well, wait a second. How well am I integrating that? Okay, I need to stabilize that and grow a garden, whatever it may be. I'm making up where it's stabilized. And okay, I'm ready for the next engagement with radical movement. And then I'll stabilize that. And that's the actual process of change. Wow, I need to take care of myself, but I'm not going to go to the gym. And it's like I keep eating, going on vision quest so I can take care of it. It's like, well, go to the fucking gym, then do your next vision quest. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I feel like when you're saying that, like a cohesiveness, the stability, it's like you're able to dance, or like you mentioned the partner, you're able to dance with a new partner, or like, or draw your partner in even deeper, and have like, a flow that really, and a cohesiveness that kind of works for you and the dynamic exchange with that other partner, whether it's earth, whether it's another dance partner, literally, or something else.
Well, right on, Darren. This has been fascinating conversation. Thank you for bearing with our questions.
No, they're great questions.
I don't know that they're all great, but
awesome.
Well, if our listeners, wanted to get a hold of you or find out more about what it is you do, what's the best way for them to find you?
Yeah. Thanks for that. My website's probably the best way. DarrenSilver.earth. Yeah. DARREN.
Dot
I love
earth.
that.
Yeah. .earth.
I want to
Yeah.
fucking
I think
dot
that's
earth everything.
I think that's the first dot earth I've ever heard of. That's awesome.
I want a dot earth URL. God damn you, Darren. That's so cool.
I would have got .com, but somebody else had it. And then I was
no, fucking dot earth.
Smart,
really
man.
smart.
All right. Well, Darren, this has been awesome. Will, I'll turn it over to you for any last things to wrap it up, my friend.
No, just lots of thanks. Like, it's really helps me understand why these are important. Yeah, that's it. That's all I really got. I mean, well, one burning question is like, if some guys out there and wondering like, is this right for me? Where do I start? Like, is it right? I'm like, whatever age, 48 years old, like this rite of passage stuff is BS. I'll just keep going on with my prescripted life. What do you have to say to them?
Well, just to get sensitive enough to see if they're called and what is it that they're called to. But the first thing that came to my mind was, I don't know how my parents let me do that. I truly don't. I'd figured out a way to to get college credit for spending 6 or 8 weeks backpacking through the Himalayas when I was 20.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome. Okay.
And I spent a little bit of time on the front end, and I was in this village where there was a lot of Buddhists there. And there was a monk at this small little cafe, and he said, "Do you want to play checkers?" And I said, "Sure, I'll play checkers." And this is 21 years ago. And we're playing checkers, and in the middle of checkers, he looks at me with full presence. It wasn't just the question. It had some energy to it. And he looked at me and he goes, "Are you happy?"
There you go.
And it hit me, and I brushed it off. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm happy.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure.
But it stuck with me for the next 4 months when I was in India. Am I happy? Do I have a sense of joy and peace and purpose in my life? And that was very much a beginning. So that's the question I would ask to those people.
Okay.
Are you happy with your
question.
life? Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great way to end this, And if you're not, hit up Darren, or find a vision quest, or get back to
a lot
nature.
of pressure to put on Darren.
Nah,
if you're not happy, find Darren.
Don't fuck it up, Darren. All right,
Oh, good shit. Good shit.
Thanks, guys.
Well, Darren, thank you, man. Will, always a pleasure. For our listeners, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah,
definitely.
absolutely.
Please share this and point people Darren's way. Point people to the show. We appreciate you all for being here. Until next time, take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you, everybody.
See you, fellas.
Peace.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope you walk away with some new tools and insights to guide you on your life journey. New episodes are being published every week, so please join us again for some meaningful discussion. For more information, please check out mentalkingmindfulness.com.